Great. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for tuning in tonight to Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and I have a great show planned tonight. I have a couple of guests coming on. I have my good friend Tim Jones, who will be on in just a moment, and coming up later tonight in about a half hour, I will have Christian De Matteo from Fugitive Poems coming on. He's one half. James Lyons couldn't make it tonight, but I think you guys will enjoy everything. And I have, what was I going to say? I have a big announcement to make in a little bit. I'm going to wait, not give it away right now. But, sorry, excuse me. First, the usual stuff. At the Wiz Comic every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern on both Instagram and Facebook. So make sure you tune in and check that out. I got that. Speaking of the Wiz, if you are familiar with A Kid in a Comic, if you're not, you should check out akidinacomic.com. Kid in a Comic, all newspaper, all comic strips in newspaper format here. The Wiz appears in here. You know what also appears in here? This really great comic strip called Sour Grapes, done by our friend Tim Jones, who will be popping on here in just a moment. I also, which I don't have close to me and I thought I did, want to talk about Bold Venture Press's 2 Zorro books I've done work in, Zorro's Exploits and Swordplay and Romance, which you can get on Amazon or by going to boldventurepress.com. And don't forget the Whimsical Wiz book, which is the collection of the complete 2023 collection on Amazon right now. It makes a great holiday gift and you will get it in time, I'm pretty sure, for Christmas. So let's bring on our good friend here, talented cartoonist, really good funny man, Tim Jones. Hello, Tim.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that I don't need a booster seat for this. So
let me say hi in our audience. We have Ara. Thank you.
Hi, Ara.
For tuning in. We appreciate that. And Ara says, love Tim Jones. Who doesn't?
Oh, that's nice. Thank
you. Am I saying the name correctly? I think
so.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same either way. Ara.
Yeah.
Ara. Like backwards and forwards.
Yes. So you've been on the show quite a few times, but let's just do the quick overview of who you are and what you do so that the people new to the show tonight can learn about you.
Yeah, so I draw and write a comic strip called Sour Grapes, and it's published now, the last time I checked, 46 papers.
That's great. Congratulations on that.
One of the papers, the very first paper that I was in, which is in my town in Smithfield, Rhode Island, they just closed abruptly. And they're hoping to either grab another publisher or hoping to dive into something new. So they said they'd bring me along. But that was the first paper I've ever been in since 2015. I was in there forever. So
now I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've been doing this strip now for 10 years, or is it going to be 10
years? Yeah,
it's
10 years. I'm gonna celebrate the 10th anniversary in 2025.
Okay.
Somehow.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe I'll wear a skirt or something. I don't know.
Going out to shows in a skirt.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, but I think I told you in the message in so many words that it's always developed over the years, and still kind of is, but very subtly. I kind of did a soft reboot of it like 2 years ago, and it's kind of sort of not reinvented, but kind of changed the writing a little bit, trying to make it funnier, and just relying on my own um, daily experiences and stuff, and just poking fun at that, throwing it at Aesop and the rest of the characters to see how they deal with it. So, um, but yeah, it's just been a long time, you know. So, and you know, as long as I'm alive, it'll keep going because it's about my life.
Yeah.
So, you
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's fine. You know, I remember um, I'm a member of the National Cartoonist Society, and they have this thing called the Reuben Awards every year. It's like the cartoonist version of the Oscars, red carpet tuxes and everything like that. And I guess last year, or maybe it was the year before, Jim Davis was there. I mean, all my heroes are at this thing. And he did this thing where he had two easels. And one easel, he drew Garfield like he was back in 1978. And then he drew Garfield as he is today. And he talked about that development phase. So
Wow.
in the span of all that time, what is it, 30 years or something like that, or more, it developed all that time. So when I say Sour Grapes has been around for 10 years and it's always developed, that's like in its infancy. If you think about it, I was just so impressed with that and so inspired to say, hey, listen, he wasn't afraid to keep changing this thing subtly over all that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that does, you know, so now I don't feel like I've, spent too much time working on it, you know? So there's that.
Yeah. And listen, I've always said this. It is a great strip. Makes me laugh each week.
Oh,
So
thanks.
that's and I've known you. I don't know how many years now, but
Too
long
many.
enough to know that long enough to know that this strip has a long life in it. I could
Well,
see it.
that's nice to hear. I mean, this week's is, I don't know if it's funny. Sometimes, usually, my rule is if it can make yourself laugh with it, then you hit it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of times I'll throw it. I think I might have thrown it to you a couple of times too, to get reactions from other people to
Mhm.
make sure that this works right. And my editor lives with me, my wife Kathy,
Yeah.
being the teacher, and so I'll be downstairs and I'll send it upstairs to her and wait for her reply, and she'll tell me, she'll proofread it and all this stuff. But this week it was kind of, I don't get it. And I went, oh shit. So I had to go through it. And then finally it was just getting so late, and I was just like, ugh. Then I had technical problems and stuff like that. So I just did the best I could, and I'm still getting good responses off of it. So
Yeah, listen, you wrote me last night asking what I thought. I thought it was good.
yeah.
I laughed at it. And what was I gonna say? I don't know. I mean, you've done that, and I've sent you stuff too. But you and I have a different like writing method. So I think I like our sense of humor are a little different when we write. Um,
Yeah.
so I like bouncing it off you because I'm getting someone who doesn't write my jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that. But I have the same. I think we have the same wife. I show my stuff to my wife, let her tell me what she thinks, and there are sometimes I do need to explain it to her. But what I've found, even my audience is my audience gets it. That's usually the
Right.
thing. I don't. And
Right.
so
If it relates to somebody,
yeah,
then they'll chuckle at it. So I always shoot for a baseline chuckle.
yeah,
Sometimes I knock it out of the park, and sometimes it stays in that baseline chuckle. If it's below that baseline, then I just, I'll move on or put it aside and come back to it later, or sometimes just completely write and draw another one.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have time this week. I had to get it out. So
I know. I've been on such a busy schedule lately that I draw the whiz and sometimes even write it the night before I post it. So I post it every Wednesday morning. I'm drawing. I could be up till 1 a.m., maybe 2 a.m. working on the strip.
Yeah.
And last night around, God, was it 11? It was after 11. I was still like in the beginning stages of drawing because it took me a while to write today's joke because I had no clue what to write. Excuse me. And then my cat, he hasn't been feeling well lately, and he has an ear infection, but he scratched too hard and took some fur off that we had to bring him to the animal ER down the street. And so we were there from basically 11:30 to about 1:30 in the morning. I brought my iPad with me so I could draw the strip while we waited.
Yeah.
And I finished it, probably around 1 a.m. because while he wasn't feeling good, he sat on my iPad and somehow erased like an hour's worth of work I did, and
wow.
I had to do that again, which is why Ajax in the strip today doesn't look as good as I would have liked him to. It was
That's okay.
Get it done.
It's funny because I that's the reason why I shave my ears so that doesn't happen. So, it's okay.
Yeah, but he's good now.
Now you know something personal about me, America.
You shave your ears.
I shave my ears. Yes, why not?
And I'm sorry, that was just good. But let's just talk a little bit about sour grapes. I'm going to share an image, and I think this is one of the coolest things, that could happen. I mean, every artist. I mean, except maybe Watterson was really into having their stuff marketed and get the name out there, right? But
sure.
Tell us about this awesome picture.
Oh, yes. So that's like I said, I live in Rhode Island. So Yacht Club Soda is Rhode Island's staple soda soft drink company. And they're in the next town over from me in North Providence. And I had the short story to the long story is a year ago at Terrificon, a famous artist named Bill Morrison. I met him. He was actually sitting across from me in my aisle. And he knew who I was because he was the president of the National Cartoonist Society the year that I got in. So his signature's on my certificate. Oh, so cool. I had to meet the guy. I went over and we talked, and we talked for a minute, how you doing, kind of thing. And then he looks at me and he points to my banner and he says, "You need to do some licensing. It's a strong character, blah, blah, blah." And I went, I don't know anything about that and stuff. I'm going to have to, research that, which I did a little bit. So fast forward, that was last year, August. So this year, April, I decided to approach Yacht Club Soda. And I talked to them about licensing. And they loved the idea. I said, sour grapes can be a flavor on hey, right. And so I just pitched the idea to him. It says, you're a Rhode Island staple. Sour grapes originated in Rhode Island. It got into its first papers in Rhode Island, like about 15 or 17 of them. And it's been around for a long time. I live in Rhode Island. It's, a marriage made in heaven. So, what do you think? And they just love the idea. So we were actually working on this since April this year. It finally came out in late October after some taste tests and color. They knocked it out of the park with the color because it matches the logo for sour grapes.
Yeah.
And then, you can kind of see it on the bottle down in the bottom corner there. The idea I had was to put the QR code for the website, and they actually advertise it as you can enjoy Sour Grapes Yacht Club soda while reading the comic strip. And you know what? It's like that novelty works. It really does. It's selling really well. This picture that you have here, that's the very first run of the soda off their line.
Yeah.
So he sent me that. That's the John Sigmato. So I think that's how you pronounce it. Is the third generation general manager owner of this 110-year-old company. And it's going strong. I started a hashtag soda sighting for it. And so when people drink it and stuff, they can post a picture of them. So that's happening. And a lot of the stores and restaurants are picking it up from their distributors and that. And we've already got plans for a new label for next year because they have the technology. So when that comes out, we'll tell everybody about that. And but so far so good. It's great, and it is actually a sour grapes flavor. So
let me ask you about, because I'm not a soda. I don't drink soda.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in trying it. Mostly as curiosity, and because of our friendship, I would love to just try it. However, I'm not a soda drinker. Every time you guys see me on here, this is water, 100% water in here. And I drink like 5 of these a day. So that's what I put in me. But what is the taste of sour grapes? Like,
it's
as a flavor.
It's not a Concord grape. It's the green grape, because I can't eat the purple grape. So it's the green grape. So I made it. That's why I made the logo color green. And then they matched that color. So what they did is to make it a slightly sour taste to it.
Mm-hmm.
They put like this lemon extract in there. And then a great flavor to it, and it's just, people love it. There's people that don't like grape flavored soda, but they love this. And on top of that, there's a novelty to it, So I've taken it to shows. Like I took it to Kids Con in Maine, a whole case, 24 bottles. And I did a small show last weekend. Took a case, and it was just gone. It sold out.
That's awesome, though.
I mean, it's not expensive, but just the fact, and then on top of that, people love the fact that I'll sign the bottle. So they'll buy 2, keep one, and drink the other one, and test out your bladder. But it's a new flavor for them too. Sour grapes, they didn't have it, especially a sour flavor, and sour is really popular nowadays, whether it's candy or drinks and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about it. I'm happy with it and stuff, and more to come. So I'm constantly pushing it and advertising it and stuff like that. So I don't want it to have a honeymoon period, and then it kind of dies down.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen with it. So you never know.
And I think, and so this was really your idea going, after Bill told you, hey, you should do some licensing.
Yeah, I want to get his address and just send him a couple of bottles. But yeah, he would be the guy to come full circle with it.
That'd be cool. He's someone I'm quite a fan of. He's one of my dream guests for this show one day.
Yeah,
so I have to reach out in 2025 and see if I can get him to come on.
Yeah, he would be a good catch.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So do you have any more? And obviously you can't. If you can't talk about it, that's fine. But do you have more licensing plans for Sour Grapes outside of the soda, outside of like the books and things you're doing?
One of the newspaper groups I'm in, a newer one that I just got into earlier this year. They asked me to do, or if they could use Aesop for they have an online store of merchandise for the paper, so you can buy shirts, hoodies, bags, coasters, bananas. I don't know. And how do you print on a banana? That's another show in and of itself. So yeah, so that's another licensing thing on a smaller scale. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't want to sell out. But it's like, if I can make some money off of it too, I'd like to do that. But this makes sense to me because, like I said, sour grapes sounds like a flavor. So, and if you tie it to the comic strip, that makes it fun. So, yeah.
Well, and I just want to, so people can see, I want to share some of your comics. And this one right here was today's.
That's the hysterical one. Yep. I'm going to keep saying that too.
Listen, I really enjoy it,
Thanks.
I mean, it's funny though, because I look at it, and because, like I said, we write differently, I have other punchlines in my head that I would use. But, knowing your writing, knowing how you do, I cracked up when I saw this. That's the thing. It's
well, thanks. So that's Stuart with Aesop, and Stuart is Constance that's in the strip. That's her boyfriend. And he used to not be in the strip, and Constance would always talk and complain about her boyfriend. I finally decided to bring him in and create him. So he's changed a little bit over the strips that he's been in and stuff, but he's the kid that the 16-year-old girl's boyfriend that's always over the house and never leaves. Yeah. Doesn't live there, but he's just always there. And it's a love-hate relationship kind of thing. And he's a little shorter than she is. So there's that dynamic. And he's a millennial. Or thinks he is anyways. He talks that way. So yeah.
All right. Before we continue, our other guest has arrived. And I know you can't stay on too long tonight, so I wanted to make sure you guys had an introduction because I thought you guys would get along. And anyway, let's bring on from Fugitive Poems. He's only half of it. Unfortunately, James Lyons couldn't be here tonight. Let's bring on Christian De Matteo. Hey, Christian, how you doing?
Hello. How you doing, Tim? Great to meet you.
Same here.
I am so excited about this. I grew up. I mean, my baseline. You're talking about baselines. My baseline of comics is strips. I used to cut out all the Beetle Baileys and Calvin Hobbes and High and Lois and Garfield and paste them in a book until I got overwhelmed and just ended up having a bunch of newspapers around. And I love what you're doing. So I am honored to be meeting you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
I showed him the image of your sour grape soda. You just missed the story about that and how that came to be.
Oh, I listened to the whole thing.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
And he's still here.
So
I actually had a question for you.
Yes.
You're talking about this character being a millennial, and as an old man myself, I was wondering, how do you write millennials? How do you channel that?
Well, he's fairly a new character, but trying to write him as just thinking he knows all, and you can't argue with him, kind of thing. He thinks he's funny. He's just like overly. Love you too, Ryan. Overly just into himself, kind of thing, but really laid back and. That typical teenager. He's a 16-year-old going on 25.
Very good.
Yeah.
So generation's interpretation of the millennials. Ryan, hello.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Was this the first time you've seen a strip, Christian, or?
Oh no, I've read Sour Grapes. I love Sour Grapes.
Okay, cool.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
You guys have both been at terrific content.
I'm honored to be on with you. This is really cool.
Oh wow. I'm gonna stay on a little longer.
I have many more positive things to say.
Yeah, it's listen, you got a lot of great stuff here, and we're going to talk about Christian's work in a second. But since I know that Tim can't stay too long, I did have an announcement to make. I got some. Hold on, I just want to stop the screen share. Let's go back to that view. That's so much better. I got a Wiz announcement for you guys. So the Whimsical Wiz, I've been drawing and writing now technically for 2 years straight. I started him in 2019. He ended in 2020 due to me getting sick, and I brought him back a while, 2 years ago. A lot of the reason because I really wanted to, but a lot of people were asking me for him, and I had a lot of fun, I was like, oh my God, I got to do it. I had all this fun talking to people like Tim. I was talking to a lot of strip artists, and they inspired me. And one of the reasons the Wiz came back is actually because of conversations with Tim. And anyway, it's kind of getting in the way of things right now, just on another level of life. So I have to end the Wiz for now. It was a very hard decision to make. I truly love the character. Well, the whole cast of characters I've created from, one of my all-time favorite being Count Dracula. When I created him, I thought I could do an entire strip about him, but I couldn't, so it became the Wiz. But doing this whole year of like a Dungeons and Dragons type of storyline, I loved doing that because I'm a big D&D guy. But I have a lot of other stories in me that I want to tell. And there's other comics I want to create. So I'm going to be creating more comics. I'm going to be putting stuff out. The Wiz is ending officially as a weekly strip at the end of this year. On actually New Year's Day will be, because that's a Wednesday, will be the final strip. I might still continue to write the Wiz and do small publications with him, but he's not going to be a weekly strip anymore. And that's my announcement. That's my big news. I know I have a lot of fans out there, and I thank you all. I really appreciate it. Where is it? On my drawing table, I actually have a handwritten fan letter that someone mailed me.
Oh, no kidding.
And it's one of the nicest letters I've ever gotten. And it's a very recent letter within the last month or so that I actually feel bad because when he wrote me, he wrote me saying how much he loved it and how much he enjoys the characters. But what it did do is make him a subscriber to A Kid in the Comic newspaper.
Yes.
So,
and it looks great in there.
Well, yours does too here. I mean, I don't know where here I am in this one. I just opened to it. I'm in the middle here. Where is my camera? So that was I'm in here as a single. Thanks. I'm in here as doing single panels. And even though I'm ending the Wiz, it will continue to run throughout the entire season 2 in A Kid in a Comic. And we'll see what happens from there. If it'll continue or if it'll go somewhere else or something else goes in. I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? But I'm creating new comics. I'm doing a lot of stuff. And I might have in the future another strip in me that the Wiz could appear in. I will say.
There you go.
So, but I wanted to make the announcement with Tim on because, like I said, he was part of the inspiration for me bringing it back.
Oh, I think that's awesome. Thank you.
I will say I'm heartbroken because it's been I only recently, because I'm 900 years old, discovered Instagram, which you should all check out. I think it's going to be a thing. But getting my weekly Wiz comics there has been a real pleasure. I was so into the Quest for the Dragon storyline, and you've been doing some great stuff.
Thank you.
I totally respect, as somebody who's overwhelmed by projects, and I get it, I totally respect your decision, but it's going to be sad to see the Wiz go.
Thank you. I feel the same way. It was a very hard decision to make. But one of the things, and I mentioned this earlier, was that there are some days I'm not even writing or drawing the strip until the night before.
I heard that.
So it's like there's a lot of stress with that. So I'd like to, and I think all of us here are our own worst enemies when it comes to our scheduling our time, becoming our we're our own worst critics. I've used the term, like I said, our own worst enemy. We stop ourselves from doing stuff because we let it get to us.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of being my own enemy and want to become my own hero. So I really want to be able to, if I bring the Wiz back in the future, I want to be able to give him the full attention that it deserves. And right now my attention's on a lot of other stories.
Yeah.
You've been putting out some art that's crazy and different than your regular style. And I got to tell you, I have been so intrigued and thinking, I want to see that. What's that storyline? Who's that character? And I can see why you're feeling the way you're feeling, because you're having a real creative moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it's really it's a polished look, that artwork. It really is. Every time I see it, it just like it's so vivid, and mannerisms and stuff like that. You can really see those mannerisms and stuff match what you're writing with their expressions and physicality and all that stuff. And so I commend you for that. And I'm excited to see what you're going to come up with in the future. So keep at it,
Thanks. I appreciate it. That means a lot, because, that's something I always strive for, is trying to make sure the expressions are correct. And I sometimes think I try more for subtle movement, even though I'm not animating the characters. Like, I try to capture a movement, even if it's not an exaggerated movement. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you get it. If even though they're cartoon characters, there's a there's a believability to how they're looking and feeling that the audience can connect with, and that's actually what I really strive for in everything I create.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like getting the strip done, almost like at the last minute kind of thing, staying up late. So I have to get my strip done by Tuesday night, because it's really weird. All the papers that I'm in, I have deadlines. It's my first deadline Tuesday night. Then I have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday that I have to send strips out, because all the papers have these different times that they publish, and it's crazy. So I have to, I cram it, and it's almost like if I'm running late, meaning I start Tuesday, when I'm done, it's almost like I ran a 20, a marathon, because I'm exhausted. My brain hurts. Well, my brain hurts on a daily basis, but so I hear you with the pressure kind of thing.
Can I ask you a question, Tim?
Yeah.
So I grew up on strips and I write comics, but I would never attempt a strip. It seems overwhelming, and what you're talking about makes a lot of sense to me. Do you have like a notepad, which is an old-fashioned term, of gags? How do you, or is it brand new every week? Do you just wait for that lightning to strike, or are you constantly creating? How do you keep up with a weekly schedule?
I have sticky notes everywhere, like all over my desk here, or I'll keep them in my wallet, because I mentioned to Michael that the strip's based on my life. Something that happened to me or was said to me that week, and I'll bring that in and kind of twist it around, make a joke out of it, and then just put it on paper and let the characters take it from there. I kind of compare it to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that we all grew up on, right? So if you notice, he'll have a theme on whatever episode that they're doing. He'll have a theme that day, and then what happens? He sends it that have the same theme. He sends the trolley into the land of make believe, and then it's the same theme in there, and you see how those people deal with it or are experiencing that thing. And that's kind of what I do. I have this idea of like the strip that you just showed, Michael, is the Stuart wanting to be a stand-up comedian after high school. I used to do stand-up, and so I thought I'd bring that in and show how it doesn't pay kind of thing. And so he wants to skip college, he wants to go on and do that, and Aesop in his own way kind of points out why that's a bad idea. But I'm not sure where I was going with that, but see, my brain's hurting already. But yeah.
But I will.
The answer I was looking for was yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. That's next week's strip right there. So
now,
yeah.
I don't know if this is the same for you, Tim, and Christian. This is. I think you could do like a daily strip or a weekly strip once you got the format of the storytelling or gag writing down. But I feel, at least with me, you pull from life. I think we all pull from life, but I feel like I have conversations with my characters. That's what it is. Like they're talking to me.
Yeah.
And I think once you get to know them, like Wiz, Ajax, Count Dracula, whoever it is, if I say, hey, they're going to be in a diner, I could hear them talking in, and once you get that, once you understand your character enough, it literally is them writing the strip and you're not. You're just like a vessel for them to put it on paper,
Yeah, these characters are in my head all the time, especially Aesop. Aesop's, miserable flying dog. So he's in my head. That's, based on my daily experiences, my life. I just, it's almost like I'm a kid playing with my toys when I do my strip. You know what I mean? Because I get into their world in my head when I'm writing. I write and draw at the same time, which is kind of weird. But I'll have the idea of the premises and stuff. But once I get it on the paper, I'm writing it, and then when I get it into the computer to do I do the text and the coloring on Photoshop. It changes more as I'm trying to make the joke solid. It's not easy being funny every week. It really isn't. I see these people doing comic books and stuff and that, and a lot of that stuff's on the serious side, maybe some splash of comedy and stuff in there, but and I marvel at that for these guys that are writing that. But they always say, like in movies and stuff, comedy is the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing to act. It's the hardest thing to write, and that. So,
I'm always shocked. So I'm a huge movie freak, and I stopped watching the Oscars years ago. I used to watch it religiously. It was my Super Bowl because I'm not a sports fan, but I could not deal with the fact that they didn't give comedies their due. It's so easy to make people cry. We're all on the edge of depression all the time. But to make people laugh is so unique. There's such a difference, a sense of humor out there.
Yeah.
I think comedy is one of the, and we need it. I mean, medical doctors will tell you that cancer patients watching comedy get better faster, or at least they're sustained better.
Yeah.
Because of the endorphins that are released. I think comedy is so important, and it's so hard. I've been showing my kids the Marx Brothers and really getting them to understand this, the core, the roots of comedy. And yet it's seen as a low art, and that blows my mind. What you're doing and what Michael is doing is important societally. We need to laugh. We need to laugh.
Yeah.
You listen to the news all day and cry. And it's easy to make people cry because we're scared and we're all kinds of things. But to make people laugh is a gift. And the fact that the Oscars and even the Golden Globes, though not as much, don't acknowledge the power and importance of comedy. If a comedy movie takes the world by storm, that's an accomplishment, because it's brought happiness, it's brought glee. And what you're doing and what Michael does with the Wiz is it brings this burst of endorphins, and you wake up and you got to go to work again, and something makes you laugh. That's to be celebrated. I truly believe that.
I
appreciate that.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say, just to springboard up, when I started doing comics, and I don't mean like when I started doing humor, my rule for myself, there was two rules I had. One, if it made me laugh, I showed it to the world. I didn't care about what other people thought. Number two was my philosophy is I don't care if you laugh with me or at me, as long as you laugh. I did my job. That is how I always attacked, writing comedy. But going to your point on the movies, though, I always find it fascinating how some of the best, like, dramatic actors are comedians or people who do comedy very well, because they say comedy comes from pain, and they truly understand. I think that's the thing. Like, we can, I don't know about you guys, but I've talked about it openly. I grew up with medical conditions. I've had 2 kidney transplants. I've had a quadruple bypass. I'm diabetic. I have all this stuff. I have health issues, and I know everything coming, like when I create, it's being that scared, sick boy sitting in the hospital as a child, and that's who I always targeted as who I was writing for, was to help those people feel better.
Yeah.
And up until before my second transplant, before I had the second one, I used to actually go visit hospitals and sit with people and draw, mostly kids, and sit and draw with kids, talk to them about comics and humor. And, a lot of it was cancer patients, because that's who they bring you in for. And it's rough to see that stuff, but to see the excitement and the joy it brings them. And I recommend anyone, like, I don't go anymore because of my health issues. But I recommend anybody who is a creative, anyone who does things like, you guys do, if you can go visit and sit with these kids for a little bit, they really need it. They didn't have that stuff when I was a kid. It may have changed how I look at things. Instead, I got comic books, saw Mad Magazine for the first time when I was in 2nd grade. Fell in love with Sergio Aragone's work, and that was it for me.
Yeah.
That's what did it, was Sergio. I remember it was our winter break, so it was February, and they brought me in the hospital for a week, and and like, people gave my parents stuff to give me, and like, I think it was one of my dad's secretaries gave me like a bunch of like magazines, drawing supplies, and there was a Mad magazine with it, and that was what changed how I was looking at comics and things. So
my father and my mother, actually, my mother introduced me to High and Lois and was a huge Calvin fan. And my father got me into all of it as well. I write very different stuff than you do. But my purpose is always to bring joy in some way. And if it's the joy of embracing the horror, and or if it's just silliness, man, I don't think there's a better salve for any condition than being able to smile and say that was awesome. And man, I that's my goal. I want people to read my stuff and be like, that was whatever it was, but it made me happy.
That's great. Yeah, it's important to me to make people laugh, and a lot of times I do it without realizing it. It's just impulse to me. Like I said, I used to do stand up. I did some improv and comedy, but a lot of that just taught me how a joke is built, right? But it just comes naturally to me. Just to be a funny guy. I survive a lot off of conversation, kind of comedy. So I just bring that into the strip somehow. But a lot of times it gets me into trouble. But I'm able to bounce back and stuff like that. But no, I'm kidding. So yeah, I mean, like you say, Christian, it's important to keep humor in some way in everything. I hardly take anything seriously, even marriage. But yeah,
That's gotten me into trouble.
yeah, I have a hard time staying serious with anything. I'll even crack jokes at a wake or a funeral.
Why stay serious?
Yeah.
It's all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
heard Tim curse earlier. Can I curse?
Oh,
Can I curse, Michael?
I'm not going for the children's audience today. So
Okay, good. I heard Tim said shit earlier. I was watching.
I did it, didn't I? That's because I did in my pants. But go ahead.
It's all. You ever watch Road to Perdition?
Yeah.
You see that movie? A great movie. Daniel Craig is a side character in it. Tom Hanks, great movie. But there's this kid at a funeral, and Daniel Craig's character, who's a nut job, starts laughing, and he says to Daniel Craig, or Craig, I just found out his name was pronounced. He says, "Why are you laughing?" He says, "Because it's all so fucking funny." And it is, because Anton Chekhov, the great playwright, he said it. Anything that happens to humans is hysterical. It's funny, because if you take it seriously, you can get drowned in it. But if you look at the absurdity of it, and that, I think I use the word absurd all the time, because so much of what happens to us is absurd. It's ridiculous, but it happens. It's part of what happens to us. We're frail. Our bodies are frail. Our minds are frail. It's all so funny if you look at it in the right way, and you have to. If you don't laugh, you cry, and I don't want to cry.
Yeah,
I've done plenty of that. I want to laugh, and that's what you guys are really bringing to the fore. And I think it's a service. I think it's a calling to be able to make people laugh and say, I've seen into the darkness, and it was funny. I've seen into the absurdity. I've seen into the tragic, and it was all awful. But there really is a funny element to it, and there's no reason not to laugh, because why not?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you're absolutely right. I always go back to the Monty Python. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. It's. I don't know how often I sing that, and I know I sing it more when I feel life is kicking me. Like I feel that's the song that comes out of me when I'm like feeling really bad.
Yep. Monty Python knew. They knew.
So,
I mean, I think it's important that we're all broken and stuff, but it's so important to not only don't take things so seriously. I don't take myself seriously. I mean, look at me in the screen. I'm actually standing, but
I'm 5'6". I challenge you.
I'm sick. I had a colonoscopy recently, and that doctor was the shit. But there's 1,000 jokes with that. But anyways, the girl's asking me at the desk. I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent, but
no, tell us more about your colonoscopy.
So the girls they pre-screen you, and the girl's asking me, all the questions. Her head's down. I'm 5'4", and her head's down, and she's like, name, date of birth, all this stuff. And she says, weight. I said 305, and she writes it down. And I said, I'm 6'7", and then she looks up and she starts laughing, and I was just like, you know what? I can't take this seriously. I'm in here for a colonoscopy, and I just can't. I couldn't do it.
I came in here for a voluntary reaming. I'm not sure I can take any of your questions seriously.
I couldn't do it. It's just like whatever. I went up to the. I can't help myself. I went to Dunkin' Donuts. I was on my way to Connecticut for the show I did on Saturday, and I hear the girl laughing on the speaker, and the car's in front of me. And I was like, "Oh shit, she's got a sense of humor." So I'm gonna can't wait to how it comes out in the end. Very good, Ryan. Very good. That's perfect. So from one asshole to another. So I'm kidding, Ryan. So I hear her laugh, and I order the speaker, and I pull up to the window, and I needed it without cheese. So he hands it to me and says, "No cheese, right?" He says, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm lactose intolerant. My family got together for a picture, and we couldn't say cheese." So, and that made him laugh. So,
is there any greater feeling than making a stranger laugh? I mean, that's. I was in the hospital this weekend because I was bored, and I was having a problem where I was bleeding in my throat, and I went in there prepared with this gag. I tried it on 2 different nurses; it didn't work on either of them. So it's happening all of a sudden. Every 3 or 4 hours, I just start bleeding, and my throat would fill with blood. And I told her, I said, I seem to have a cut in my throat, and I can't figure out how to get a Band-Aid down there. And it flopped every time. I was heartbroken. I'm like, I prepared this on the drive here. I was spitting out blood and preparing this gag, and it didn't work on anyone. I was crushed.
oh my God.
It's a good joke.
Thank you.
I would have laughed.
I can't figure out how to get a Band-Aid down there. And nothing. Just nothing.
I went to the urologist. He says the urologist says that's not a penis, that's a skin tag. So we can burn that off. I get the freeze thing right here. We'll just burn it off. That's it. And to this day, I use a catheter. But is it time for me to go yet?
Go on. Yeah, I'm not kicking you off.
You want to talk about comedy? The removal of the catheter while you're awake? That's comedy.
Oh no, it's not.
It's like starting a lawnmower.
Oh, dude, you're
right.
gonna.
Yeah. It's endless. It really is.
Okay, I'll tell you a story, but it's not. This isn't a joke, because you brought this up.
I'll restrain myself.
Oh God, you make me flash back to my first transplant.
Your first what?
My first kidney transplant. 18 years old. Now during the surgery they put a catheter in you, and because blood clots could form, you have to let them out.
Yeah.
They took them out. They took my catheter out too early. All right. Try being awake and have one put in. Okay. And because there was a mess up with the storeroom, it took like over 4 hours. I was like
40 feet of cable.
I was laying in that bed like in tears because I was going to freaking explode. And but yeah, I mean, seriously, this wasn't a joke. You just brought it up. I figured I'd share that.
Don't you think about that though? There's some part of you that's going through this hell, and you're like, I can't wait to tell this story. Everyone's gonna cringe. I'm gonna be at the next party on that, and people are gonna ask me how I'm doing, and I'm gonna zero in on the worst fucking part of it, and they're just gonna watch everybody cringe, and they're gonna be laughing and cringing, and it'll be valid. The experience will be validated because I've taken it and made it into comedy art.
I'm not gonna lie, I've done that before. I have made comments, especially when they ask how you doing, and
Well,
go ahead.
I had a heart attack in 2019, if you might remember, and I'm trying to forget. And I'm on the table and stuff, and they're ripping the clothes off, and my chest is like an elephant sitting on it and stuff. And there's a girl on either side, and they're shaving down there. And they said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, and they're gonna catheterize you through your wrist, but if that doesn't work, we gotta, they might stick it up through here, so we gotta shave down here." And I said, "Listen, be careful of Ernie and Bert down there, and especially look out for Big Bird." And I got to laugh with everybody. Then next thing I know, I'm in the recovery room. So
wondering what happened to Big Bird in the meantime.
Yeah.
What's that?
Wondering what happened to Big Bird in the meantime.
Oh,
I try not to make people laugh who has a razor down in that area.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my rule. But
that was like, today is brought to you by the letter P, you know. So is it time for me to go yet?
I told you, you pick, man. I'm not kicking you out. I could sit and listen to you all night.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I should go, though. I have to shave my toes before I get to bed. So
you'll be warmer if you don't.
But there's a silence right there. How about that?
I thought you were going to say something.
No, I'm done.
All of this was okay until you said toes. The catheter was one thing, but don't mention your feet, sir.
No feet jokes. No, I'm sorry.
All right, man. Well, you know what? Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a supporter of my comic.
Always.
And
always.
You know, keep up the great work. I'll still be reading regularly. I see your posts all the time.
I appreciate that.
Love what you do, man. Just keep it up, and get another soda flavor. Create a new strip.
I will.
Another soda flavor out of it.
Tim, honored to meet you.
Oh, same here, Christian. Where can I follow you? What is your
Fugitive Poems at Fugitive Poems on Twitter, on Blue Sky.
Oh,
I don't really understand the extensions on Blue Sky.
I just got on the Blue Sky at Fugitive. I'm writing this down.
Poems. Yeah, we make the antithesis to what you're making.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Tim would really be into, I think, what you do. You know, I think, you know, even if you write humor, I look at everything, and Tim is a comic fan. You know, but their stuff is not for kids. That's the best way I'll put it.
Dude, I'm writing a kid's comic right now.
That is awesome.
Do you know how hard it is not to curse?
Yes, I do.
I got an 8-year-old character. Not making him say the F word is difficult, especially because my 8-year-old has a hard time not saying the F word.
Let me tell you something. You know, speaking of like that age group, I was recently going through Crunchyroll. I don't know if you guys have the app.
It's the anime channel.
Yeah, the anime app. I have it. I don't know if it's an actual channel.
What's that? A cereal? Is that a cereal? Oh.
No, it's the anime app. And there was a what's it called? A show from the early 2000s I never watched. So I said, let me check it out. And it's called Ghost Stories. Now, when it was transferred over to the American audience, I had to look this up because I'm like, this is really out there. The American scripts were so bad that they said, screw it, we're writing our own stuff. And they basically made it like an Adult Swim cartoon, but in anime. So in the story, they're supposed to be like elementary school kids who fight ghosts. In this one here, they're still elementary school kids, but all they do is basically curse and talk about sex. And
it sounds like me in elementary school.
It is one of the funniest things I've watched in such a long time, where I just was nonstop laughing at, like, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe, because you're just like conditioned in this day and age, like they can't say that, they can't, but they do, and you're just.
But
so
we did.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, I know. It's just.
I mean, I said, my son's in middle school, and I'm realizing I don't need to censor myself as much because he's on the bus. Yeah. And the bus is where all awful knowledge transpires.
Yeah. Hold on, just want to say this or show this.
Don't follow me.
Don't follow me.
Tim, let me tell you something about Ryan Santos. He may not.
I know Ryan.
You know Ryan?
Oh, I know Ryan. Yes.
I met him at Terrificon, which you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And Ryan is one of the most incredible artists I've ever worked with.
He is. He's amazing.
Wild.
Makes me sick. I tell him that all the time. Makes me sick.
Oh
I don't
my
know if
God.
I've met Ryan.
You tell this guy that there's a car on a street corner, and that car in that street corner exists three-dimensionally. I mean, they're unbelievable. And he's doing a series with Stephen Besha called Dirty Living for us, for Fugitive Poems.
Ah,
And I could not possibly be prouder of it. The work that he's done, which I have no right being proud of because I had no hand in it. But he is astounding. He's brought Stephen's voice to life. Stephen's a great writer. And we are so excited about this new comic. There's a shot. All Stephen wrote in the script was something like there's an old lady looking at cops. The drawing you see of the old lady is one of my it's one frame. Just one frame. It is completely has nothing to do with the plot. This shot of this old lady is iconic and hysterical. You can look at her and know she's been smoking for 40 years. And you know everything about her life. And all in one shot. Ryan is a incredible artist. Anyone would be lucky to work with.
yep, absolutely. Yep.
Let me ask you. I just looked him up. I don't know if I've ever met Ryan or not.
If you look him up, all you find is his porn career.
Is this his website here? Is make sure I got the right one? Is this him?
Yep, that's him. There he is. Look at that handsome
man right there.
Look at that guy.
Right.
Wow, he's
Sexy
GQ
motherfucker.
all the way.
Yep.
He is.
Well,
You know,
I don't-
when Ryan was young, I didn't know if he knew this, and he might he might tell you himself. He was the poster child for birth control, but
well, I'll be following you now.
We're very lucky that Ryan decided to leave porn and get into comics. It's really it's a deficit for the porn community, but definitely a bonus for us.
Well, Ryan, you're going to come on this show one day because
he is. He should definitely go on your show.
I don't think I'm good with faces. I don't think we've ever met in person, but I've heard the name so many times. Probably through Christian talking about him.
One of the best artists I've ever met, and I mean that seriously, honest to God. Every time I see some of his new work and stuff, or even his commissions at a show, it's just amazing.
As the editor on the comic, I was able, I'm in the middle of work or whatever, and I get a message on my phone, and it's Ryan's pencils. You want to talk about a boost during the day. You're like, oh, I remember that scene. Holy crap, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I read all the scripts and I edit all the scripts, and then Ryan's in there, and Ryan just the electric life he brings to his mind is
This stuff is gorgeous. I'm like stuck on his Instagram now.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous looking at this stuff here. Wow. Yeah, we're definitely going to have a little check.
awesome.
A little chat so I can get him on here. But Tim, I don't want to keep you if you have to go and do stuff.
No, it's fine. I was going to go dream about Ryan anyway, so.
It's fair. It's fair. There's lots of film to watch online.
So, all right. Well, Michael, thank you so much. It was great to see you. It's great to meet you, Christian.
Tim, a pleasure. I mean, absolutely, truly, I'm awed by what you do, and I'm absolutely honored to have been on the same show with you.
Oh, I really appreciate that. I'll make sure I follow you on everything and and stuff. I'm at Sour Grapes 2017. Thanks for asking. And sourgrapescomic.com is the website. And so you can look for me on Blue Sky. Like you said, it's a weird. I just got onto Blue Sky. I think I have like 3 followers, and
Blue Sky is exploding. It's
Sour Grapes. It's Sour Grapes Comic on Blue Sky .bsky.social.
Yeah, they don't make it easy.
Yeah.
And so yeah. But again, thanks for having me on. I'll be talking to you guys soon, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Christian, stay in touch if you have any questions or have any jokes you want to throw my way.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. I'd love that. I threw one to Michael, but it was too profane for him.
grape toes on OnlyFans. Okay,
That's where I'm going to follow you.
you must. Yeah. Okay, that's the shaving toes callback. Thank you.
Well, I'm not interested unless you're making wine. I just imagine.
Yep. OnlyFans. Yep. All one. Oscillating fans. Let's get specific. So, all right. Hey, have a good night. Have a good rest of the show. And we'll see you soon.
Yes, you too.
All
Talk
right.
to you later.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye.
Wait, how do you do this? Okay. I'm pressing the red X right now.
We're going to watch him for the rest of the night.
Leave studio. That's
Leave studio. Okay.
Yeah,
Story
right.
of my life. Okay. Bye.
Michael, can you soft shoe for a second?
I
I
can.
got to grab something.
Yeah, go do it. All right, let's get rid of him and put me on the screen. So it's just me for a little bit. I'll let you know when he comes back. First of all, everyone, thank you who's been watching so far. Again, if anybody just came in, my announcement earlier was that I am ending the Wiz at the end of this year, and I won't go into the whole thing, but I have other stories I want to create. So I am doing that. So let me bring Christian back so I can exit my solo. You don't have a Fugitive Poems bottle yet, do you?
No, we're so I've been thinking about this. I was talking to my buddy Eric.
I'm listening. My door just opened. I want to just close it. Go ahead.
Now that he's gone, folks, let me tell you something about Mike. Oh, it's back. I was talking to my buddy Eric the Viking tonight, and if we did, I was telling about Tim and sour grape soda. Have to be a bourbon, maybe a rye, but it would be Fugitive Bourbon or Fugitive Rye, and that would be the way it would go. So I was looking. Tim was leaving, and I'm like, I got to refill. So thank you for having me on tonight.
No.
And I got tonight, Tuesday or Wednesday nights, depending on the week. I hang out with Eric the Viking. We smoke pipes. We drink wine or whiskey. And I got your message, and I was like, yeah, I could do that afterwards. And here I am in that condition.
I appreciate it. Listen, I've been meaning to get actually both you and James back on for a while. And I was thinking of doing a holiday show, but the way the holiday fell, it's on a Wednesday, Christmas this year, which means New Year's Day is on Christmas, and I'm not doing shows those days.
New Year's Day is on Christmas?
No, it was on, did I say, I meant on a Wednesday the following week.
That's a fucked up calendar.
Yeah, so, I'm like, I'm not doing a holiday show this year, and I was where I usually, pull a bunch of my friends on who I just enjoy chatting with. And I was going to ask you two to come on, but since I wasn't doing it, I'm like, hey, can you guys come on tonight? And
I'm happy to be here, dude.
Yeah. Little upsetting.
And I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. No. We got to now talk about your stuff and talk about what Fugitive Poems is for the people who don't know. And tell us what you've been working on.
I sent you a couple of images. I don't know if you got them.
Did you, through email or?
Through email. They're all pictures of no, I'm kidding. They're pictures of our new project.
Okay.
Fugitive Poems
there you are.
Is going to explode in the good way in 2025. We got some big business stuff going on behind the scenes and some crazy comics. I got a comic that I wrote that is really not appropriate for anyone called Blood Valkyrie in Vegas. Has an orgy scene, has a murder scene. It's amazing. And I'm only saying it's amazing not because I wrote it, but because Alex Zapata is the artist who has taken my twisted vision and embraced it so wholly that I'm almost offended by it. in all the ways that I want to be offended. So that's one thing we got going on. That'll be coming out in 2025. And then I've been talking about Dirty Living, which is coming from the writer Stephen Besha and the artist who you may have heard of, Ryan Santos. And trying to figure out what to say about this comic. That's the ad for it, Dirty Living.
Yeah.
Ryan and Stephen have very much what James and I have, this sort of symbiotic relationship where
That's awesome.
they understand what each other is doing and they fuel off each other. And Stephen's writing these. I just edited issue 2 of Dirty Living, and I'm having trouble not reading it like a fan. It's such a great story. It's so out there. And then I get these images from Ryan, and Ryan just has his finger on the pulse of the story. And wait till you see the last page of Dirty Living. It's going to be the first subscription service comic from fugitivepoems.com. And you're going to want to go on fugitivepoems.com and follow it. The concept is apparently it's been too long in the day. I'm losing my voice. I can do this though. This one not corrupt detective in the Boston PD is working on several cases, and one comes to him of a mobster's boy who has been killed in a way that he is way too familiar with. He was way too present for. His father is a mobster who's in prison, and he's trying to clean everything up, but everything around him is filthy. And the only way, Raymond Chandler wrote this great essay. And in it, he said, Raymond Chandler being the author of The Big Sleep and some of the great noirs, he said, down these mean streets a man must go who is not himself mean. And that's sort of the theme that Stephen is working with. He's got one good guy surrounded by bad. And the bad is not just human, and that's bad enough. It's supernatural. And this partner of his dies and then shows up again for work. Ryan gets this. Ryan understands the characters. Ryan understands the world. And Ryan just makes it so intense, so intensely palpable. I cannot wait for you guys to see this series. This is the first comic that Fugitive Poems is producing, not from James and not from myself. And we're truly honored. The book is amazing. It'll be coming out shortly when the release date is ready. I'll be back on your show, whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with me. And Stephen's ear for dialogue, his understanding of these characters. The dialogue is, and I'm a writer, right? The dialogue is so good and so sneaky. And James looks at his art and is just, James like, yep. James is totally 100% into it. He loves the way Ryan does every aspect. And Ryan's the kind of guy where, and a lot of people don't like this, you tell him that 3 cars are in the scene. He draws 5 and they all look amazing. And it doesn't take away from the action of the sequence at all. There's a shootout in an alley that your heart is pounding as his characters are running toward the alley. And then when the shootout happens, it's explosive. And I've edited the comic, because you get the iterations in throughout. And I've read it like 6 times. And the impact has not lessened. And that's Stephen's dialogue and Ryan's just mind-blowing art. We're really proud of this. So this is going to be coming out really shortly.
That's awesome. And this is going to be, you said, subscription service?
You're going to sign on to Fugitive Poems. You're going to sign on for the subscription service, and every 3 months you're going to get the next issue. And it's our first one. We have more coming. We've got a couple of great the things I can't tell you about yet, but you know I will. That are coming. We're going to have a robust subscription service.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that. You know, it's funny because I was just talking with a couple of friends about this the other day, and you know, I don't want to make this, you know, the comic industry is bad type of conversation, because I don't believe it is. But you know how they always say, what's called like manga's outselling American comics. And, you know, I was talking about, I think last week on the show, why I think that is. And I do think some of it is the subscription service. You know, I think having that, finding new readers online, as opposed, you know, we have comic shops closing all over the place. It's a hard to have a, you know, direct market unless you're like at the shows these days. So going in and having subscriptions, I own, you know, I have a lot of subscription services to different things, but I have a couple of comic ones, so I can read.
Do you know that there are literally, we just did some research, 2,300 comic shops only between Canada and the U.S.?
I did not know the amount, but I just talked to a couple of people over the last few weeks, and they told me stores in their areas were closing. So I mean, I don't doubt it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And yet comics is growing as a field, but it's one of those things that has found its life online.
I mean, again, I don't want to turn this into that type of conversation, but I do think a lot has to do with, you know, you only sell at comic shops. You know, people don't go to shows anymore for the same reasons that they went to shows years ago. You know, it's and again, everybody's online.
Fugitive Poems found their audience.
Yeah,
we went to the in Westchester County. We went to the county center for the Blood and Ink Tattoo and Horror Show.
How was that? I was going to go to that,
dude. Fugitive Poems found their audience. We found the people that are looking for wild, non-cape, because I don't do cape. Non-cape comics.
Yeah.
They wanted sci-fi, they wanted horror, and they looked at us like we were a revelation. And we were so taken with this and so excited because these people were so cool and so wild. And I cannot wait to introduce them to Dirty Living, to Blood Valkyrie in Vegas, to Stripper Club Sally. There are people out there who want something. Well, to go back to Monty Python, and now for something completely different.
Yeah,
that's our market. Is a now for something completely different.
Well, let me say that the first, I didn't go because I was away on vacation. I was hoping to go check it out. But when I saw that you guys were doing it, I actually turned to my wife and said, they're going to do really good at this show. I said, this is their show. And
we did.
Yeah.
We did. We were hoping you'd be there for your 431st tattoo. But
I wish I can get tattoos. I told you the reason I can't, but I wish I could.
You know, I looked around. My buddy Mark Capitelli, my best friend since fourth grade, no tattoos. Left that convention with a tattoo. I was shocked. Whole forearm.
Wait, did a sleeve?
Not a sleeve, but a raven that went from here to here.
Okay.
And it's amazing and incredible. And but I looked around. I just can't think of anything I want permanently on my body that's not Cameron Diaz. But it was amazing. What a show! What people! We met the gentleman from the 914 Collective. we just had an incredible time.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted different shit. So something that's not the same thing that's been jammed down our throats for 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's me, because I'm twisted and I have a messed up mind, and I'm not afraid to put it on paper. And James is not afraid to make it art, just like Ryan is not afraid to make it art. And we're putting that stuff out there, and people were psyched. The Containment Breach series, which you can get on fugitivepoems.com, was a huge hit.
Yeah. No, I knew it would be. And you know, some of what you're talking about is one of the reasons the Wiz is stopping. I want to do other things that I haven't done or that I've wanted to do. I know I talked to you about a barbarian story a while back.
Yes.
Do I have the drawing? I think I showed you this. I'll just give myself the thing for a second. But this, it was the first design I did of that barbarian. Very Conan-like. I've changed them up since then. But, you know, but it's, and this is a little kind of classic, you know, like animation, you know, comic style. Things have changed on him. I don't have that drawing. It's inside the another room. But this is the kind of stuff that I want to be doing. I want to be doing some stuff that may not be considered as kid friendly as I used to do, or normally do.
Go on.
What?
Go on. That's my.
No, I mean, listen. I've had ideas in me since, you know, the beginning of writing stories, you know, for myself. Some, you know, I always, you know, when you start off, you copy what you know. So I'm making fun of Superman or whatever, and then later on, you know, you start reading other stuff that's a little more. I don't want to call it. We'll just call it more mature in storytelling. I'm not saying it's dirty or full of curses or what, but just it's not the basic good versus evil anymore. They're comics that make you think, you know.
That's so key to me.
And
I believe personally in good versus evil. I believe in the black and white. And people are surprised when they hear me say that, because they see the work that I produce.
Yeah.
But I believe that evil exists. I believe that good exists. And I don't believe that it's black and I don't believe that it's gray, I should say. I believe that it's almost like pixels on the old 8-bit systems. And it's black and white, but they get mixed together in certain areas. It looks gray, but they're still good and bad. And I mean, I came up on samurai movies and noir. And this concept of what makes a person good, what makes a person bad, it's complex. And it has to do with the decisions they make and when they make them. And that's why I play in this middle ground, because I believe that the middle ground is where we are, and we have to decide which side to stray to. And that's kind of the comics I make. And that's one of the things I love about Stephen Besha and Ryan Santos' Dirty Living, is that there's a character trying to figure out, just like all the great noir heroes, Sam Spade or Raymond Chandler's hero in The Big Sleep, whose name is Philip Marlowe. They're trying to figure out Nietzsche's when you scream into the void's looking back at you. How do you exist as good in a world where you need to do bad to get ahead? And I think that's a huge question. And that's what I'm sort of always looking for.
It's a nice way of looking at the stuff. It adds more. I think it adds something to the storytelling than, you know, just that generic hero. You know, I mean, okay. Here's the thing for me, because it gets a little weird. I've always been a big DC guy. DC I've always said DC and Marvel kind of were opposite each other. DC always kind of felt like the light to me. Marvel was a little more dark. You know, um, DC was the fantasy world, Metropolis, Gotham. They made up places. Marvel took place in New York City, basically. That was it. So for me,
West Coast.
what?
Except for Avengers West Coast.
Oh yeah, exactly. But like when I look, the DC heroes were characters I wanted to grow up to emulate kind of a moral code by. It wasn't until they started changing in the 80s their type of storytelling to kind of, I guess, compete with Marvel at the time, where superheroes got a little darker, even at DC. But so like when I think of writing heroes, I always think of writing DC heroes. I want them to be pure heroes, but later on when the 90s came along, and I'm not saying things like Spawn or whatever, where it was like dark characters, but I started reading more indie books and opening my eyes to other ways of writing, to thinking other types of comics. I mean, when I started reading Will Eisner specifically, that really changed how I approached storytelling. You go to A Contract with God, that trade is probably one of the greatest stories in my opinion, both visually and written wise. I don't know if there's, I'm sure there's other people who say there's better comics, but to me it's at least in the top 10, maybe the top 5 of stories for me, comic wise. And that changed how I wrote. And that's when I started exploring. It wasn't that book that really inspired it, but I started writing more poetry. I started getting into more classical or studying classical literature and learning about stories and characters that I saw somewhat parodied in the comics that I grew up reading. You know what I mean? It was an education for me in the 90s that led into the early 2000s.
So the 90s worked for me at the place that I was at, because my father, listen, my oldest son's name is Dashiell. He's named after Dashiell Hammett, who wrote The Maltese Falcon. My father introduced me to noir when I was young. And it opened up a question that is so seminal to existence, which is, how do you fight the dark without becoming dark? How do you walk down the mean streets without yourself being mean? How do you go against the unfettered evil that those without any principles will do without losing your own principles? And for me, that's why my buddy Mike Flanagan, God rest him, he was a Superman fan. And when it comes to DC, and I was always a Batman fan. Because to me, Batman was really fighting that battle. How do you not let the dark infect you while you're living in it? And that's a question that I've wrestled with my whole life. Not that I'm out on the streets fighting crime in a mask. I swear that's not me. But how do you deal with immoral people in a moral way? That's it, actually. How do you deal with immoral people in a moral way? And when we were first introduced to Dirty Living, that was something that really struck me. Here's a character who's trying not to follow the criminal life of his hugely successful criminal father, who's trying not to become a corrupt cop in a corrupt police department, who's trying to do the right thing, but is ensconced in this filth. And Blood Valkyrie in Vegas coming soon. Alex Zapata is the artist. Tom Line is the letterer.
You got an issue of that copy? Is that the other one you sent me?
No, I haven't. Oh, well, we can talk about that.
Well, we'll go back. We'll get to that then.
Yes. Not okay for kids. But I feel like most of my writing, and Stephen Besha seems to be in a similar place, is in that vein of how do you live in a corrupt world and not be corrupted? How do you fight corruption and not do so corruptly? How do you maintain your integrity as a decent human being when absolutely overwhelmed by the dirt of those with no moral quandaries? And that to me is the question. I think about that all the time.
It's interesting.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what to even say to that. I mean, it's such an interesting way of looking at things, because I mean, everybody comes as a creator from a different experience in life. That for you, that's how you attack stories. And I've read some of your scripts. I've read, a couple of your comics you've written, and when you tell me this, I could see how you attack it. But we never talked about that before. We've never, you know what I mean? We've never like discussed it on this level that it's going to make me go back at your stuff. And
well, I mean, if you look at the werewolf story in Containment Breach Volume 4, Monsters, Beasts, and Bastards, that is very much what we're dealing with. We've got a character, an American soldier who happens to be a Navajo, who knows he has this power, and he's terrified of it pulling him into the darkness. But he's fighting the ultimate darkness, the Nazis, who are just champing at the bit to get as evil as they can get. And the question is, does he let go and destroy them with the ability he has? Or does he not? Does he maintain his humanity? Can he maintain his humanity fighting viscerally? And even Shelter in Flames, which I wrote, was the first comic in, it was one of the, in Quarantine Breach Volume, I'm sorry, in Containment Breach Volume 1, in Quarantine Chronicles. The same question is, what are you willing to do to curtail evil? And does it make you evil in doing it? And that's a question I'm always asking myself.
It's interesting, man. Very. We could probably have a long discussion on that, but let's move on here.
I've got a huge bottle of whiskey. We can do this.
Well, it sounds like your voice might be going soon.
Does it? Is it obvious? I can hear it.
I don't even know if the whiskey's helping.
Whiskey always helps. Stripper Clip Sally. James and I are talking one night, and we're talking about the gun that he put on the cover of Volume 3, Containment Breach Volume 3 of Clouds and Ether. And it's a real gun. And he tells me it has a stripper clip. And I don't know much about guns. And I said, what? Because immediately my mind was racing. And he explains to me that a stripper clip is a clip of bullets you can put in real fast and pull out, and it arms the gun in certain guns. I'm sure he would explain it much better. And all I could think about was strippers. And I got Stripper Clip Sally out of that. Stripper Clip Sally is a accomplished young lady, intelligent and trained by her survivalist father, who has gone into the world of exotic dancing. And one night, there is an issue where aliens appear and they attack the strip club. And the story goes from there, where Stripper Cliff Sally, with a small team behind her, has to go after these aliens. And issue 1, James took my vision and absolutely, he saw the humor in it. He saw the absurdity in it. He saw the fun in it. It is crazy. We are at the ink stages. It's coming out soon, and it's going to be insane.
Is this going to be another subscription-based comic, or?
This will be kickstarted initially.
Okay.
And then in comic shops, which is the goal. I've written the 5 issue arc.
Mm-hmm.
It's all written and ready to go. And Sally is a hell of a character. It is action, and what it is more than anything else is Grindhouse.
Okay.
And we realized recently that we are Grindhouse. We are what Grindhouse has always been. Those are the ideas that come to my mind. And this is a pure Grindhouse story.
That's great. I gotta say, I love the logo.
Isn't that great?
That is a great logo.
Yeah, all James lines.
I figured.
Nothing to do with me.
I wish he was able to come on. I'd love to ask him questions just about the art itself.
Oh, we'll be on if you'll have us when this puppy comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know that. I'm gonna be I might be revamping the show a little bit. But it won't change much. It's things I'm considering doing. When I decided to cancel the Wiz, I had a lot of other thoughts, and I think I wrote you about this. I actually thought about ending the show, and instead, I actually said I want to do other things on the show. So I'm playing with ideas of revamping it in the new year, and because next week's really my last show until the new year. So
long as you have space for me, I'll be happy.
Yeah, you guys, you and James are always welcome anytime. But I love James's artwork. I just always have been a fan of it. I love his UFOs right here.
I'm going to give some credit.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Gibson Capitelli, who came up with a tagline for this. I will come up with a tagline for you in seconds. I rock it. Mm-hmm. I cannot come up with a tagline for myself if you paid me $1 million. And the tagline here is all Mark Capitelli, and it made us laugh so much we had to go.
Yeah. Oh my God! I just read it. It's great stuff here. Alien invaders should have known there was no conquering Earth in the champagne room. That is just...
or Mark Capitelli.
No, that is brilliant.
It is raucous. It is wild. It's sexy. It's violent. The concept is that Sally strips in a strip joint that's also a Chinese restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And the aliens come in, and they have all made themselves look like what they think suburban dads in finance look like. And they all look almost exactly the same. And then something happens that unveils them, and shit hits the fan. The first issue is just crazy action. And I put some things in there, panels that had too many elements in them. Ryan and James bitched about this on the beautifully on the last episode of the show. The art will not be changing. The Fugitive Poems show. I put too many elements and too many panels, and James made them work. It is an action fiesta, just crazy, and a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I get that. I love the retro feel to the design on here. Now, as you know, I don't see colors well. I'm colorblind, but I get that like retro 60s, 70s, like Grindhouse movie ad out of this advertisement here. So
Yeah. No, we're going full on there.
yeah.
So Sally is in the foreground. In the mid-ground is May,
Okay.
who is another character in the series. And the concept is that the aliens have been here before, and everything we heard from the 50s was accurate, and they gave up and decided to come back later. So they still have these old saucers, and that's where that comes from.
No, that's great. I love the design of those. That's actually the designs of them might be my favorite part about it because I love all that retro alien stuff. And I'm actually working on a comic right now, and I designed elements of it a while back. And the one thing I haven't redesigned is the UFO spaceship design. Because it has such a retro feel, I always go to those and look at it. You know,
I'm a big fan of the World of the Wars movie.
Yeah,
and I wanted to. Those have become kind of a gag, or rather, they became kind of a gag and then got forgotten. And I kind of wanted to bring that back. There are hyper futuristic ships involved in this story as well as we get further into the issues. I really dug the idea of opening with this 1950s tech.
Yeah. Wow, dude. Okay. let's move on because you have another one here. I just can't wait for these to come out. And then you have The River. Now, is The River the original story that brought you guys together? I forget.
The story that brought us together was a story called Finis, and
Okay.
that's still coming together. We talked to Damien. Remind me his last name.
Oh, Torres?
Yeah, I talked to Damien Torres because of you about drawing it before I was at all into the comic world, and but he was off on his own thing, and then
hold on, let me just interrupt you. By the way, you guys, if you're not following Damien Torres on social media, go follow him. His work is really good, and I just saw a post today that he's doing. He did the cover. I think it's cover art in black and white right now for a new comic that's coming.
Damien is just astoundingly talented.
Yeah,
and was a former student.
Both of ours here, yeah.
Both of ours. And I didn't really know what I was doing getting into it. Michael was my guide into the world of comics. And I had this idea for a comic called Finis, which is going to be the big one that James and I released. But when James and I were screwing around making comics, I had this idea for River. And we took it and we went with it. And I have since written the entire arc. And we just kickstarted River 1. And River is a drug dealer, gets his hands on a time machine, and sets himself up as a dimensional god. And these 6 Pennsylvania cops to figure out how to stop it, even though they have no idea what's going on. And that's the concept of River. And issue 1, it was a big hit on Kickstarter, which we're very excited about. We're about to go to print. We're so excited that we added pages to it. And it's the opening where these Pennsylvania cops get sucked into this issue with the time machine and the fiend that comes out of it.
Okay. I'm sorry. This is James's art. I can tell.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just looking at the hand of the muscles and veins. I'm just like, damn, he's just so good. You know.
There's a scene in this comic where a man gets his face sliced off.
Yes.
And I remember looking at it the first time and understanding my allergies. I didn't know how high the sinuses went because James will not draw bullshit. He does his research. And this man's bisected face, I was like, the sinuses go that high? No wonder I'm always so screwed up.
Yeah. I remember that because I think the first time you were on, you had a bit of some pages posted on your website, and we discussed. And when we discussed it, I was just so blown away from that panel specifically because I don't have the patience to do that stuff. I studied anatomy. I cannot tell you the names of almost any of the muscles anymore. None of the bones. It's been that long since I've had to learn them by name. But what was always important to me, and this might come from how I learned to draw, was the underdrawing or the structure of the character before adding all the details. One of my first books was How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. And so I was like in 7th or 8th grade when I first got that book. So I wasn't really studying anatomy, but I was understanding that they had these, which one's that? Stan Lee's How to Write Comics, right?
No, it's How to Draw.
Oh, How to Draw Comics. Oh, I can't see from that far. Oh, I've seen that book. I've never looked through it. But that's a more, I think, updated version, right?
I don't know.
Because in the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which I don't think I have next to me, I think it's on my bookshelf over there, or one of my bookcases up there. But that's all John Buscema's art, who I am such a Buscema fan. Like, okay, so this is just a little interesting side note. So when my wife and I, to make our lives easier, Christmas shopping, we basically just say, throw stuff on your Amazon wish list. And my stuff are like artist editions of like John Buscema and all these artists and stuff, because I just love to sit and stare. I actually have next to me here that I go to somewhat often. I'll give myself the screen for a second here. Where is my mouse? There it is. I got the volume 2 of John Romita's Spider-Man. So I love looking at these books. This is my Spider-Man. Listen, his son is great, but there's nobody to me who drew Spider-Man like Romita. John
Romita Jr. is Punisher to me.
Yes, I can totally see that. Yeah. Where is it here? Let me get out. But again, I grew up on the How to Draw Comics, and I'll tell you what's interesting is I'll put that away later. I had trouble understanding when they would say you got to draw it with the boxes and putting it in perspective. It wasn't until I learned perspective real well to understand how those boxes worked. And you know what I'm talking about in there, how to draw them in. Yeah. But what always bothered me as a child, and even to this day, although I do use the boxes occasionally, was I'm like, why are we drawing them in boxes? Our bodies are round. So I started using more round shapes to do it. And
as a fat guy, I appreciate that.
What?
As a fat guy, I appreciate that.
I'm right there with you, man. No, but I had trouble with understanding. And then when it finally clicked, when I learned, like, really understood perspective, that to this day, I may go with circles every now and then, but I still use that box to get that foundation to, or at least that concept to get the foundation. So long way around, I don't really care about what the muscles names are, exactly what things look like underneath, as long as I know they're defined where they need to be defined on my character, so. And I'm also, and we talked about this last time you were on, I'm a huge, like, Alex Toth is probably one of my all-time favorites. and he came from like a less is more theory. You know, he would there was a quote I saw people posting lately. It said something like, you know, draw the heck out of the image and then erase what doesn't need to be there. Whatever. I'm butchering the quote, but basically it was like, draw it so you know what is there, you know what it looks like, and then erase all the stuff that isn't important and take it. And that was kind of what he was saying. Right. Character trumps anatomy. Absolutely.
Oh,
Like Ryan, that part.
Dirty Living. And I don't want to give too much away about this. Has a scene where a man is being beaten with a bat.
Okay.
And it is so visceral. The anatomy is accurate, but it's also comic. And so what you're talking about makes 100% sense to me. He took the reality, but we're making fiction.
Yeah.
And that's the distinction. We're making fiction, and we're not looking for a biology lesson. But the beating that this person gets with the bat, you don't need any questions about it after that.
Yeah.
It works. You get it, you feel it, and it's accurate. Just like James slicing the face off in the river. But it's not about teaching you biology. It's about giving you the visceral effect of the action. And so I hear what you're saying. It's about knowing. You got to know how the human body works, but you also need to know how fiction works.
Yeah.
And it needs to pull from the reader the most visceral, and I'm using the term visceral very intentionally, viscera, the most visceral possible reaction. And Ryan and James both can do that.
Yeah.
To the umpteenth degree, the nth degree.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the type of stuff, you know, I really enjoy looking at. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, I always go to this story I was told about Jim Henson, that when he went to puppet festivals, he did not go looking at people who did like Muppet style puppets. He goes, I do that. And he went and looked at people performing marionettes and other type of puppets that he wasn't, you know, known for. And that's, you know, and that's kind of how I approach usually looking at comics is, yeah, I'll read the, you know, humorous stuff like Tim's stuff, or even just collections of strips I enjoy, Peanuts, whatever. And I'll read superheroes. But what I really look for are comics that I don't create or that I don't live in those worlds, because I need something different. I can't be looking at the same thing over and over again. I mean, you look at Marvel and DC, there's house styles. Some artist makes it correct, or the style, and everybody copies it for the next 10 years. You know, I want to see people doing different things. I want to see stories that are written differently than I'm accustomed to. I've been looking actually more for Westerns right now, because there's not a lot of Westerns out there.
The Western was massively successful in the 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 50s, and then fell off. In the 60s and 70s, we've got the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Westerns, which conflated the good guy and the bad guy. And then they fell out of fashion in general. Yeah. And I think that that's a commentary on humanity's confusion about good and bad. We got Clint Eastwood's great Unforgiven. Mm-hmm. But we still have the Russell Crowe 3:10 to Yuma. It's there. We want it. I think the Western mythology is very good and bad, and that troubles people now. I think that we'll get back to it, though. I'd love to hear Ryan's thoughts on the Marvel house theory that you're talking about. Because Ryan draws what he wants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but think about it. In the 60s for Marvel, let's just, you go by era, it's basically a Kirby style, right? Then, in the 60s, late 70s, more 70s, I guess it was, it kind of became a Buscema style. In the 80s, Romita basically took over.
Yeah.
And by the 90s, it was McFarlane. And Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee, and then in the 2000s, whoever was the popular one, but they started spreading out a little bit by then, but a lot of people were keeping that 90s style for a long time into the early 2000s.
What's the 2000s style?
I'm trying to think, because I stopped reading Marvel after it ended, I think, in 97, was Peter David's run on the Incredible Hulk.
Do you think that Krakatoa will be Krakatoa, the X-Men Krakatoa era that just ended?
I haven't read that.
The Next Generation?
You know what? I haven't read it. I haven't seen enough to make a comment on it.
I wonder. I haven't either, but I'm 900 years old. But Krakatoa, a lot of people were upset when it ended. There was a lot of stuff that happened during Krakatoa in X-Men that I didn't like.
Okay.
I wonder how generational that is. Listen, and I'm going to ruin my credibility here. The 90s, Ryan says 2000 bland style. Great. The 90s were seminal for me. It's the advent of Image, and shit changed. It was a rebellion. But I'm fucking 47 years old, so I don't know what the next. Why are these kids looking at 2000 or even the 2010s? Because that's old now. What happened then?
Well, I will say this. And this is what and if Ryan, I'm not saying it what you're thinking, please correct me. But what happened in that era was comics started becoming less done, if you will, by the artists. They were just creating more outlines of characters, and they were being filled in by the colorists more, and sculpted features and things by the colorists. I feel, and that's what I think he means by a bland style. And then, but there was also kind of a fusion explosion that happened a little bit, where they were, the whole, manga style with a fusion was kind of coming into some artists, and because that was popular, certain companies experimented with that. But I don't know. It's and listen, I'm not the type of guy to be like, it has to look like Buscema, it has to look like this. No, it's just what I grew up on. Those were the artists that I enjoyed and kind of lean towards.
I'll tell you what our goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Fugitive Poems. We're not interested in the time period.
Yeah.
We're interested in the storytelling type.
Yeah.
And so there's a big influence of heavy metal comic, heavy metal magazine.
Yeah.
There's a big influence of genre storytelling. And we are ensconced in this world, the modern world, where all kinds of crazy things happen. But we want to tell the stories in our own style. We're looking to be separate from the movements that are happening and focus instead on storytelling in a way that's novel, but also celebratory of what's come before. And if you look at Dirty Living and what Ryan has done with Dirty Living and what Steven has done with Dirty Living, we see a comic that exists outside of popular genre fads and exist within the eternal search for humanity. And as we find ourselves and work our way through, CEO for a major healthcare fund, whatever they are, company, was killed. And the United States of America is siding with the killer. That's a question, right?
Yeah.
That's eternal. That's beyond styles. And we're looking to investigate the human spirit in the modern time that way. And that's what Dirty Living was doing. And I love that. And that's what attracted us to this project and made us say, yeah, Stephen Betcha and Ryan Santos, you're not James and I, but you're Fugitive Poems. And that's what we're looking for.
That's a nice way of putting it, and explaining what you guys do. And again, with me canceling the Wiz, and you may notice this about when you see my Instagram posts and whatever. I don't have a specific style that I draw in anymore. I don't think I do. I don't think style is something artists should be striving for. I think like you said, the story is the key. So when I draw for what I feel the story needs. I'm highly influenced by people like Kirby and Toth and Buscema, some of the artists I named earlier. Also influenced by Jerry Ordway and Will Eisner and just Kurt Swan. If I wanted to look at Superman or Wayne Boring Superman, I love that era. So if I want to tell like a Silver Age story, those are the artists I'm going to look at. But if I get something that's going to be a little darker, I'm probably going to look at Eisner, as inspiration. And I'm not saying I draw like him, but I think the influence would be seen in what I create, because it's the type of stories that inspire me.
The key is to be responding to the world without being in the how do I say this? The key is to be responding in the world without being beholden to it. Proud to be under the Anvil umbrella. How can you create art in your time? I wonder, Ryan, correct me. I'm thinking about what you just wrote. How can I create art in my time that is both a response to my time and also beyond that? There is a human there's a human battle for morality in what we feel is right, but there's also the morality of our time period, and Dirty Living plays with that. Stripper Clip Sally plays with that. So what do we do when the enemy is entrenched in our reality? And how are we not freaks? How are we not monsters? We're fighting against what others might see as normal. That's it. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, listen, your mentality on, or if you want to call it philosophy on storytelling, I think is a great one. It's an interesting question to be asking. And I was going to say something very similar to what Ryan just said. It's a matter of honesty and being genuine.
Yes.
That's what it is. Like when I was just talking about my influences, and I'm not particularly saying I would draw in their styles, but those are the stories that influence me. Like that type of illustration, that type of humor, or whatever. But I don't, you know, and I just have a love of the retro in me, so I tend to pull my art from the past, but I try to tell stories that would be fun in my opinion. That would be entertaining
Think about Spielberg
Yeah.
and all of the people he brought forward who were Tales of the Crypt fan, who were fans of that era, the 1950s, horrifying to those people, images. And they took that and they made it the modern.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing, is that our generation says, I know what influenced me, and I want to take that to the now.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, forgive me for continuously bringing this,
No, it's okay.
but this Luigi guy who shot the CEO for a major healthcare firm, that's a comment on where we are in society and what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And how we're going to rebel against it. But it's also, forgive me, an action story. It's also a horror story. It's also a commentary. And we pull from that.
Yeah.
Because all of us have dealt with insurance. All of us have dealt with healthcare issues. And I mean, look at Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049. And we're all trying to figure out what is the next step. And when we think about we think about police corruption versus the excellence of police forces. We think about all these social issues that we have that seem so black and white, but really aren't. And what we're thinking about ultimately is morality. How do we morally handle immoral situations? And I think that's what I'm obsessed with. I think that's what Stephen Besha is obsessed with. I think that's what Ryan Santos is obsessed with, and James is certainly James Lyons as well. We're trying to tell these tales where we think about, okay, this is what it is. Now what? What do we do with this? How do we live with this? How are we supposed to exist? Actually, now that I say that out loud, that might be the biggest question. How are we supposed to exist? And my comics come into that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know what to say, dude. You're giving me and the audience a lot to think about here. I mean, I've never attacked story like that before, and when we worked together, I taught a class that I basically created, and then through the years it changed with other instructors, but a visual storytelling class for about 14, 15 years of my career there. And every time I talked about visual storytelling, that is not one thing I thought about even bringing up to the students, was how do we, exist, if you will. It's, I guess I taught more, understanding how story works as opposed to making them think. And now I'm thinking back to my 14, 15 years teaching a visual storytelling class, and like, did I teach them correctly?
You're teaching people to tell stories. You're teaching them to think.
Yeah.
What do we do? What do you do in a world that doesn't seem to match your morality? How do you exist as a person?
Yeah.
You just accept the morality of the time? This is the shit that I'm obsessed with. I think about this all the time. And one of my stories come out of this is I have beliefs, but time periods change their mores. And how do my mores fit? How do my morals fit? Bye, Tim. Dylan Rover just said.
Yeah.
How do I fit with the time period. Do I still fit here? How do I exist morally? How do I exist in the way that I believe is right?
You know, I sometimes ask myself questions like that because I just get shocked by a lot of the stuff I hear on the news, things people tell me, and I'm just like, wow, this world is. I don't know if it's right for me anymore. You know, and then I look at characters that I love, you know, someone like Superman, and then I go back and read certain stories or watch a YouTube video about a book I never read but always wanted to, and I know I don't own it. So, yeah, and I'm like, what the hell did they do to the character who's supposed to be the idea of, you know, knowing right from wrong? You know?
I'm working on a novel right now. It's the fourth novel I've written, and I've been stuck on the ending because I'm trying to figure out where the characters fit in the premise of the concept. And it's really a journey for myself. And where do I fit? And that's how I approach all my writing is, what am I trying to say here? And I'm not trying to give definitive answers because I'm an asshole and I don't have any.
Yeah, but you also want your readers to kind of come up with them on their own too.
Absolutely. I'm just a dude who's trying to get through the world, and I have moral beliefs, but the world is challenging, and life is challenging, and situations are challenging.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things when I read Stephen Best's Dirty Living, and then I saw Ryan Santos' Hard On It. There's a character who's stuck in a world that has solidified in its corruption. And there's a way to do what you're going to do, and that's how we get by. And this character doesn't follow that. And he has to figure out how to function outside of this. And that's what really appealed to me. We got some crazy stuff coming up. Dirty Living is one of the things I'm extraordinarily curious about.
Yeah. Listen, the art looks fantastic. What you described to me sounds really good. So this is something I'm definitely interested in reading. I can't wait to see more art. You'll, you know, when you're able to, you'll have to show me.
Oh, I've got a lot more. I have it hidden in my computer.
In PDF format, that's a simple email? Or
Yeah, I do. Hey, Ryan, send me issue 1 in PDF format.
Yeah, no, that's great. Listen, I don't know where else we should go with this conversation, man. We might have to end it now.
I could either keep discussing moral philosophy with you, or I'd go to bed.
Well, it sounds like you need to go to bed. I don't know if you. I think you know. Do you have to get up early for some work tomorrow?
I do.
Yeah. I don't start my day till 10 a.m. So.
Ryan, what's the homework? You got the homework. Ryan just sent me the last draft of the letters. They were amazing, and we had some great fun with it. Dude, issue 1 of Dirty Living, I would be jealous of anyone putting this out. I'd be 100% jealous. It's amazing. So, yes. Dylan, good night.
Yes, good night, Dylan. So, man, I guess with that, we'll definitely wrap up. I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for the kind words you said about the Wiz and everything that you. What? I'm sorry. What?
I got my fan at 20. I got my copy of 2023. I'm a fan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah, we'll talk more very soon. I hope. I do want to talk to you about that barbarian story, but it'll probably be a New Year conversation. I got to finish up some stuff this year, but But yeah, I mean, this was great. And next time you come on, we'll get more philosophical. You know, maybe you need a few more glasses of whiskey before, you know.
Dude, I can get philosophical all night. I'm in.
Yeah. No, we used to have good conversations when we worked together. I remember we had
I am obsessed with the concept of good and evil.
Yeah.
And what that really means for the daily liver. I don't mean my liver that I'm destroying. I mean the person that exists.
No,
and I'll be happy to talk about it anytime.
Yeah. No, I mean, this just popped in my head. I remember when we worked together, we were talking about playwrights, and we both found out that Ibsen was our favorite playwright.
Oh man!
And I was like, you were asking me about a play or something, and I mentioned, and what was did I mention the Dollhouse or something? And you're like, oh, you like Ibsen? I'm like, yeah, he's like my favorite playwright. He's like, mine too. We just started having conversations about him, so and his plays.
Yep.
So.
We explore what it is to be human and where does it exist on the planet.
I may have to go find
dangerous question.
I may have to go find my my books and reread some of his plays. Now,
there's some Eugene O'Neill while you're at it. Morning.
I think I have. That's probably in the closet. I keep my go-to books on my shelf, and then I have.
Morning Becomes Electra by Eugene O'Neill. Holy shit!
All right, man. I will let you go. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me tonight. I got to meet Tim. Holy crap, what a night.
Know, I'm actually surprised you didn't meet him before. You've both done like Terrificon together.
And how weird is that? Yep. Yeah.
So, anyway, guys, I'll be back next week with another show. David Sullivan will be on, who's Sillyville, and we will chat with him about his comic. And I believe he has a Kickstarter out now. But we'll have a lot of fun. So Christian just disappeared. I was gonna say good night to him and tell him to hang out if he wanted to. But anyway, guys, I'll be back next week. I might do a drawing stream if I get the chance to. But again, the Wiz is ending on last strip I'll do on the 1st of January. And yeah, there'll be other stuff coming, so just watch out for that. I mentioned the Barbarian story today. I got a fantasy. I got a couple of animes. Manga I'm writing. I want to bring back my original comic from the 90s that I did, Plunger Pup. I never finished the storyline. I've revamped them over the years. A character I've been talking about for a while, Dax Photon, which is a sci-fi adventure story that's a tribute to all science fiction in general. And I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm planning. So I'm just not announcing anything yet, but I got a lot of stuff in me. And over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of stuff. All right, guys. So with that, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for participating in the chat there. And follow me on Instagram, Facebook. You can go to all Michael Gracia, or I'm at the Wiz Comic or Get in Tune, or and please like and subscribe to my YouTube page if you're watching from YouTube. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you soon.